Hello, everybody. It's Eniola, and I'm back again. Today, I'm doing things a little differently. I'm recording outdoors. I don't have any fancy equipment. I just have my phone mic. But I tested it, and it actually didn't sound too bad. So I thought, why not? And I'll be doing something a little different too, which will be a short story reading. I wrote the story about a year ago. If you're stumbling on my YouTube channel for the first time, thank you so much for coming. And for those of you that consistently watch, I really appreciate it. I'm starting to get familiar with your names and your comments. And thank you so much for watching. And those that are coming for the first time, please subscribe to my channel, like, and what else do you do on YouTube? All the good stuff you do it. Now, my story is called The Way to Plait. Here's the cover. And I wrote this story last year, about a year ago now. And it's just a sort of like a nostalgic story about my childhood and where I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. So come along on this journey with me. The Way to Plait. One afternoon in 1995, my sisters and I played on our burglary-proofed patio. Our 3-bedroom flat was in a 3-unit building where other families lived. One of our neighbors' fathers was an architect, their mom a teacher. The other family lived off their grandfather's inheritance. Their father, I'm not sure what he did as a child, but their mother led the choir at church. Our patio overlooked the now empty driveway since most of the adults were at work. Akaka was a fascinating place to grow up. It was a lower middle-class suburb in Lagos, Nigeria. My family and I lived there for about 10 years. For most, it was a transitional neighborhood where people could live relatively well, but work towards their promised land. Not even 800 feet from our compound was a huge gate that separated Akaka from a shantytown called Ilaje. The Kabu drivers who shuttled Akaka residents to the major road would not go to Ilaje because there was no road there. The unpaved streets were riddled with craters filled with solid and liquid garbage. And the children seldom went to school. But like many in Akaka, we frequented the kiosk market and made our hair in Ilaje. My sisters and I began to argue about who the winner of 10-10 was when a scruffy young man came up our stairs. He asked for my mother. "I'm looking for a lawyer. Are you lawyers' children?" And even though we were taught not to talk to strangers, my sisters and I, feeling safe behind bars, answered in unison. "Yes, sir. Good afternoon." "I need to see her regarding legal matter. It's very urgent." He looked defeated. "Did you go to her chamber, sir?" "Somebody told me Mrs. Lawyer can help me, that I can get her here." "Okay, what's your name? I'll tell her you asked for her," answered my older sister. "My name is Oba," he answered, turning away. Then he looked back at us again. "Should I write it down for you?" "It's okay, sir. Don't worry. We'll tell her tonight." It wasn't uncommon for strangers to come looking for our mom since she was the popular lawyer in the area. Most people were intimidated by lawyers because they believed lawyers were some kind of law enforcement agents. However, my mother had the reputation of being compassionate and approachable. When she returned that night, we informed her of Oba's visit. She looked concerned and said, "Why would he come here after I'd asked him to only look for me in the office? I'm going to tell him to stop." The ritual with most Nigerian schoolgirls, as we, was to get our hair braided, threaded, or cornrowed on the weekend for the 5 school days. I didn't always enjoy the process because the hair makers did not always get the style I wanted. However, I enjoyed the journey to Ilaje. We had to walk about a mile through the swampy Ilaje road to get our hair done. My sisters and I, ages 6, 7, and 8, would walk faster than or outrun our Auntie Wumi, who lived with us and looked after us. "Girls, be careful. If you fall, Ogbomo carries you. I'm not there." Oh. Anu, my younger sister, hated making her hair the most because she had the lethal combination of being tender scalped, tightly coiled afro, and a tendency to get migraines. As a result, her hair would be half loosened because of how much time and bribes it took for her to sit down for a style change. At Auntie Wumi's call to order, she would slow down cautiously. Mountain, on the other hand, never cared for obedience. Her determination was as tough as her scalp. She was never afraid of combs. Anu and I looked up to her so much. Auntie Wumi, I'm fine. I know the way already. I'm 9 years old. I'm going to secondary school next year. You better slow down before you fall inside gutter. Both Akaka and Ilaje, like most parts of Nigeria, had open drainage systems. But these Ilaje gutters were massive. And in the rainy season, like this, they would merge with pothole pools and form a brackish sea covered with bubbles that looked like a slowly simmering pot of rottenness. It smelled of algae and tadpoles. Sometimes I felt a lump of the pungency go down my chest as if I had swallowed it. We would hop from one gravel island to another in order to get through the streets. The other day, I fell into the swamp not being able to differentiate it from the street. A group of old women pointed, sang, and jeered at me. I'll never forget that near-death experience. Once we settled at the Ijaw people's place to make our hair, we had to sit on four-legged, shabbily made wooden stools that had been varnished by all the hair grease from every customer who had sat in it. Sometimes we would be given a worn catalog sheet of hairstyles to pick from. I would point at my choice and the auntie would nod in understanding. Then she would bend me over into her crotch and I would hold my breath. Next, I would feel the wooden pick carefully parting my thick afro from the nape, followed by the coolness of my minty hair pomade. My favorite auntie would always give me a mirror and ask, "If I like this?" Because I know say you like Sakura. Then I would smile and nod. During the plaiting, Anu would sit by Auntie Wumi while she promised her more bribes and took her old style out. Anu, honestly, if you sit still and you don't cry too much, I'll let you buy Tasty Time. Tasty Time was that saccharine, bombarded ice lolly that made our tongues pink. We were not allowed, but Anu had a thing for eating things my mom would punish us for if she found out. Anu, sorry, you hear? This auntie's hand is not painful. She can do your hair after me. Anu always trusted my words. Okay, please, I don't want to cry. The hair braiders talked about everything and everyone. That a big girl don't marry now. Her husband knows to get money, sha. Really? I hear say na Oba with the thief. Na him she marry. No, na him brother. It was so easy to get distracted during braiding. Half the time, I viscerally shook my foot and tapped it loudly to ward off the festive flies. The mothers of the compound stirred a huge pot of bean stew over firewood. The aroma masked the gutter smell. I hated beans, but I was sure I would like their own beans. The woman next to Mountain got her nails painted by one of the girls from the compound. She stashed all her cash payments into her bra. A bunch of kids my age played a fine game of suwe next to us. I was so sure I could beat the girl who was leading. I felt the hair maker yank my head back into position. Ow! Small girl, do you want your hair to fine? Mm-hmm. Then face front, so it won't fine, no. I refocused. A group of men erupted in cheers while Nigeria scored a goal. It's a goal! Fortunately, the hairdresser sprung off her bench and ran with everyone else towards the single TV in that compound. Everyone stretched their necks to see the replay of that splendid Yakini goal. I seemed to be the only one who noticed the massive rats that scampered out of the TV room. It was far enough for me not to react. "Up Nigeria!" they chanted. Relieved, I got up to stretch my legs, plus I couldn't feel my buttocks anymore. The auntie returned happily and finished my hair. She talked about the goal in a different language, but I understood because she kicked her leg and made sounds that sounded like football. Fine girl. Your hair don't finish. You like 'em? Yes, I do. Thanks, ma. I smiled at my image in the mirror. Oh yeah, no, come and make your hair. I'll stay with you so it won't hurt. Mountain had run off with the children of the compound. She told them stories of our private school and gave them all her snacks. They loved her. They were jumping over gutters again. I threatened to tell my mom and she stopped. She must have recalled the punishment from the last time. Across the street, our tailor's children, who were about the same age as we, were bathing openly by the gutters. They used the soap their mother had rubbed into their hair to wash their entire bodies. I watched as they bathed so skillfully, without getting soap in their eyes or missing the water pill, even with their eyes closed. After their bathing competition, they ran off without towels into their one-bedroom face me I face you apartment. I glared at the water trail they left behind, wondering why they showed their pee-pee in public. Anu finished her hair after much ado, and we walked home tired. I guess she had forgotten her tasty time. A few months later, Harmattan season had approached. My mother came home much later than her usual time, after 1 a.m. For most Nigerians, much less women, it was unusual to stay out late for safety reasons, but she often worked late to make ends meet. When she arrived, she signaled for us to be silent instead of our usual cries of excitement, with her hand over her mouth. She said she had been caught by the Oro masquerades. She tried to use the Ilaje way home to avoid them, but she wasn't so fortunate. The potholes made it difficult for her to escape. Women were forbidden from setting their eyes on Oro. They had started questioning her aggressively when she recognized someone like Oba's voice asking them to let her go because she's my big mommy. I just thank God I'm home safely with you all, my children. We hugged my mom and prayed for her safety. In the middle of our prayers, we heard her snoring loudly. On Christmas morning of 1995, at about 4 a.m., we heard loud gunshots outside. I woke up scared to death. My mother and Auntie Wumi were sitting by our bed and my sisters were wide awake. I heard footsteps right outside our window and voices of armed robbers. I was certain they would enter through the window. We all panicked and prayed in whispers. For the 2 hours it went on, we couldn't even flush the toilet for fear that we might draw attention to our house. Later that morning, my mom asked Auntie Wumi to check if we could make our hair in Ilaje, since she was already going there to get ingredients for Christmas lunch. The Canadian neighbors had their door almost completely broken down because the robbers were sure they had dollars. They threatened to kill them if they didn't open the door. They tried to pretend they weren't home, but their newborn cried so loudly, blowing their cover. Thankfully, their door was secure. Everyone shared their stories of the twilight robbery over balconies, through fences, and as they met in the street. There were whispers about who the thieves might have been. The day still felt eerie, and it was almost as if Mom knew. Auntie Wumi returned very quickly from Ilaje. She said she had thrown up when she went on her errand. "Why? Are you sick?" my mother asked with concern. "Yes, no. Jesus, I saw Oba's body burned in front of the Ijo people's compound. He was part of the robbery, so they burned him alive. His remains, they were still so..." She ran to the toilet. Oba was served mob justice. He paid with his life. They said the vigilantes caught him. We went to make our hair on the 28th. Oba's body was gone, but the ashes were still there, gray and flattened into the sandy road because of the arid weather. I saw some tire remains, but no body. As we proceeded past the ashes, I tried to remember Oba's face, but strangely, I couldn't. Oba was the phantom, a man, a brother-in-law, a masquerade, a hero, a thief, a charred body, a pile of ashes. I shook my head fast to drop the scary thoughts. As I slumped into my hairmaker's stool again for the last time in 1995, I overheard. That Oba boy, they too young to die like that. Please, it's better. Make you no spoil our larger community for us where we just they manage. Abio chimed in a third party I couldn't see. It's good the guards got him. That boy knew the hear word. As we plotted our steps around the dried up craters, I could feel the sun frying my freshly exposed scalp. Although I could still not remember his face, I thought about the possibility of Oba being alive and a different person. You know, maybe if he came to church or if Mommy had helped him longer, he would not have been a thief, Abi, Auntie Wumi. It doesn't matter, oh. Oba's brother is a responsible married man with a good job. Same mother, same father. So it's not because of anything. That's just his fate, to die young. That's how God wants it. I still pondered whether my mother could have changed the outcome of his life if she just let him stay in prison. Could he have been saved? Why was he the only one caught? Why didn't the people of Elijah defend him since he was their own? What if they only scared him with the fire, then let him go after a desperately sincere apology? My 7-year-old self could not handle the dilemma of fate. As our feet hit our paved streets, Malta remembered the amusement park trip Mommy had promised us for December. Immediately, 3 of us bolted towards our compound, through the driveway and up the stairs. We were going to try our luck for the umpteenth time.